Thank you for joining us this lunchtime. Hope the weather isn't as lousy as it is where I am here at Edgbaston today. Terrible rain. But thank you for joining the webinar, License to Thrive. So just a quick introduction of who's on the call. So myself, I'm an account director here at Crimson. We've also got my colleague Nathan, who is our expert from Bytes, who are our licensing partner, and also Millie, who's with us today. And you'll hear a little bit more from those both in a moment. So just very quickly then about Crimson. So I think most of you will know Crimson, but for those that don't, there's a little bit of information hopefully on your screen there about us. But we're a Microsoft partner that are working with organisations to really drive digital transformation. And the reason for the webinar today, which is really focusing on licensing and maximising your licenses, is because a real big part of what we do and how we work with our customers is about making sure that you get the most business value from your investment in technology. So today with us, we've got Bytes, who are Crimson's licensing partner. And as I just said, we've spent a lot of time working with customers around the technology, around really looking at business value, around looking at all of the great technology and investment that Microsoft is bringing out. But what's really key is to make sure within all of those design features that we are very clear on what the licensing is. We know that an investment in Microsoft is a large investment, and we want to make sure that we're always looking at ways to ensure that you're licensed correctly, but also that you get the real value from those licenses. So who better than to partner with than Bytes, who are an expert in managing Microsoft contracts, working with over 5,000 clients, and really able to help you around getting the value out of your licenses. And the purpose of today's call was that I've been on so many calls with Microsoft, with customers about all of the really good new technology. We know, and we all chose to invest in Microsoft because they plough millions and billions into the investment of their solutions. And there's been so much talk around Copilot, around AI, but at the end of each of those sessions, there is still a little bit of uncertainty around what does this mean for licenses? How is it licensed? Is it something we have already within the solutions we've got? Is this an investment? Or is this something that's got to be an add-on and it's got to be licensed separately? And there were so many questions around this that actually thought it was really important that maybe we had a session like this where we could just get our partners Bytes to go through that and help you all really understand some of the new tech, so the Copilot, what it means and how that is all licensed. We've then got an opportunity to have a little look at Quantum, which I'll let Bytes explain to you all about that. But that's, again, a tool to really help you make sure that you're getting the value from the licenses that you're investing in. And again, the purpose today, Q&A. Ask as many questions as you want to as we go through the next just over half an hour, where we're sharing you information. Feel free to put any questions in the chat, or we'll have a little pause at the end where we've got the opportunity for you to ask questions. But we've got the experts here, so anything you've been thinking about, whether you are looking at introducing some of this new technology, or whether you've already got it and you're just a bit unsure, then please do ask the questions, because we've got the experts here to help today. So I'm going to hand over now to Nathan, who's going to take over controlling the screen for me and hopefully going to share with you lots of insightful information. Over to you, Nathan.
Fantastic. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Going to take control now. We should all be able to see my screen.
We can.
Fantastic. So we'll run through, I guess, Copilot. We'll go through what's been announced, what's been changed, how you can purchase it, etc. And maybe you've already got it, so running through what's included in certain licenses. So if I just set the scene, we're mainly going to be discussing Copilot for Office 365 on this call. That'll be the main focus, due to the fact that it is one of the earlier products that's available, and it's the one that's had the most noise and the most most marketing recently. However, we'll touch on the other Copilots. It's quite hard sometimes with Copilot because there's probably 20, 30, 40 versions, soon lots more to come. So it's there's a wealth of information out there. So we'll run through high level Copilot for Microsoft 365. We'll touch on a few of the others as well. So what is Copilot for Microsoft 365? As we can see on the screen, nearly a year ago now, this was announced. This was due to Microsoft making I won't say an acquisition, making an investment in a company called OpenAI and leveraging the OpenAI tools and the OpenAI service to start to actually build a digital assistant essentially. So it was announced nearly a year ago now, and since then there's been a bit of a change and a process. So announced in March, then Microsoft did what Microsoft do, where we get so many customers in and get them the early adopters. Interestingly, you get early adopters on, but they still have to pay quite a large fee to be included in what is essentially beta. But that was quite important because you ended up getting quite a lot of learnings, from that over the months. The early adopters were testing it and providing feedback and working with the engineering teams. Then on November the 1st, this product became available in enterprise agreements. There was quite a lot of noise about that, product on general release. Interesting, the wording was, there's a product that has general release, but general release to enterprise agreement only customers with a minimum order. It's like it's general release available to certain customers. But nevertheless, November the 1st, it was released to the wild, I guess. As I mentioned, there's a 300 user minimum, or there was a 300 user minimum, and it had some very strict prereqs, or very easy and simple prereqs. You had to have either Microsoft M365 E3 or E5. So that's the suite that it not only contains the Office suite, but it also includes elements of the Enterprise Mobility and Security suite. So things such as Intune or conditional access, etc. And it also included the operating system, so Windows 10 or Windows 11. So not the standard, Office that we sort of know today. So what has changed? Well, a few weeks ago, on the 16th of January, pretty much all what I said just then has completely sort of flipped and it's gone. And we're led into a completely different world now. So what has changed? So before January the 16th, as I mentioned, it was an EA product only. And the key as well is that it's what was known as lead status. So although it was available in enterprise agreements, it wasn't published on the price list, and it required manual intervention for the order, for quoting, and for setup. Now that's all gone. It is available in an EA, but it's published on the price list and it's by your normal sort of EA ordering process. However, it's been extended to every single other channel. So you can go on the Microsoft website, Microsoft.com, and you can order it on your credit card. You can go to a CSP provider or an education provider, and you can purchase it, as of now, or as of January the 16th. The prereqs have changed. So before, when there was the fairly strict prereqs on Microsoft 365 E3 and E5, so the two most expensive SKUs, Business Premium and Business Standard were added for the SMB customers. That was always going to happen. We always knew that they were going to be prereqs, but because they're not available on enterprise agreements, it seemed like we were adding new prereqs. But also, very interestingly, the Office SKUs of the E3 and the E5 Office products, so Office 365, E3 and E5, were actually included as a prereq. That was quite interesting because we've had 6 months of saying you need the M plan. Customers are working out, how do I jump and go from paying sort of £22 to paying nearly £50 for the E5 plan to then pay for Copilot on top of it. But that was the message from Microsoft: you need this SKU. So that inclusion as a prereq was very interesting. We can come on to that in a second. I've got another slide on that sort of shows the difference. The thing to highlight though is if you've got Business Standard, if you're an SMB customer, or you've got M365 E5 because it's the full fat enterprise version, the Copilot experience that you have will be exactly the same. So as a Copilot product, it's exactly the same. So we really need to understand everything else that you have in the plan and everything else that you're leveraging, because while your Copilot experience will be the same, so you may be looking at it thinking, why would I pay £50 for that base license when I can get it for 22 or even 11, depending on what you go for? The actual underlying license allows Copilot to be either more secure or work in a slightly different way. But just to recap, Copilot being the add-on will be exactly the same. And lastly, and probably probably the most important, or the second most important, is the minimum seat count has gone. And the minimum seat count has gone across all channels. So it's now available in CSP, and you can order just the one license from your cloud system provider or on the website. But for the enterprise customers that have the enterprise agreement, not only is this turned up as a price list product, so the lead status has gone, so the manual intervention with the account manager and sometimes the dalliance of negotiation and all that stuff that can add to a sales cycle is completely gone. But also the whole 300 user count for them and the EA customers has gone as well, so they can order sort of ones and twos. That is obviously quite important. We're seeing people in the early access program, for example, they had to order 300. What we're seeing is quite interesting is they've ordered it, they've paid that upfront order of 90k, 100k up front, paid it all up front because that is what you have to do for Copilot in an year. However, we're still not seeing a lot of those customers adopt. So we've been on the early access program for partners, and we've had customers that have been making these early access purchases. We're seeing one or two of them going to 300, doing it as quickly as possible, and then going 300 to 3,000, for example. So we are seeing that, but we're also seeing people that have paid for this upfront 300 and are still going 10, 12, 14, 15. So the no minimum order size has opened it up to everybody, but it's also allowing flexibility because some of these customers that have made this 300 commit and they're only using 20 may wish they probably waited a little bit because 90k up front versus probably 20s, it's a lot easier to sort of justify. Briefly touched on this already, or briefly mentioned, the pricing. There's a monthly price, so Microsoft will advertise the monthly price all over the website because sometimes that is how companies operate. However, to be very clear, it is only an annual payment. So although you'll see the monthly price advertised by partners or advertised on Microsoft's website, regardless of how you purchase, it will be nearly £300 upfront for the year. Again, this is quite interesting because on an enterprise agreement, that's how it works. You make your commitment, you pay up front. But on Web Direct and on CSP, tends to be aimed at smaller customers. They generally have the option for an annual commit, but monthly payments. That isn't seen at all in this now, so that's quite interesting. There's also no roadmap from Microsoft as to whether this is actually going to be added. If I'm to put my own personal opinion on this, we'll see the upfront payment until July, coinciding with Microsoft's financial year. We then may see monthly payment options coming. We may not, that's just my opinion. But yeah, that's the one thing to call out. It's probably the only product on Web Direct and the only product in CSP that a monthly payment option isn't included on. So I guess price parity and payment parity across all the agreements, that's probably the key thing to take away. So just under £300 annual commit required and an upfront payment for the full 12 months. What I would like to call out though, there's something, so on Web Direct, you'll pay the £300 or the £296 up front and you put that on your credit card. What I would like to call out is in CSP, which is the main licensing vehicle for ourselves and others. In CSP, you have something called coterminosity. You may have heard of it, you may not have heard of it. It's a completely made up word for a start, but it's also the logic behind it is quite confusing. So when people look into it, they tend to stop because what could be something so simple as being allowed to co-term my purchases, sounds quite simple. There's strange caveats or strange prereqs that Microsoft have added, so it's not 100% as simple as co-terming everything. However, Copilot is applicable because it's an add-on for coterminosity. So to explain that with an example, say you have 9 months of your, let's say, business premium. You've got 9 months left on your business premium. Copilot is an applicable add-on for business premium. So when you order it, what we're able to do, instead of saying you have to have Copilot for 12 months, we can co-term it to the end date of your business premium, coterminosity. What that allows us to do is effectively license you for 9 months of Copilot. We're not going to charge you for 12 months, we're going to charge you for 9 months. So we're seeing that as quite a potentially a viable conversation, because while everyone's happy that Copilot has come to CSP and come to Web Direct and the minimum user count of 300 is gone, it is available to everyone now, but some companies are still taking a look at it thinking £300 per user is quite a big upfront commitment. So leveraging a partner that understands co-terminosity and leveraging that, you're not tricking the system or anything, but you're, in the example that I provided, reducing that 12-month commitment to only 9 months, thus you're only going to pay 9 months worth of Copilot. I thought that was just worth highlighting, because we see lots of partners and lots of webinars mentioning there is a commitment and there's an upfront payment, but we're not seeing many people mention the co-terminosity. Why I wanted to include this slide, as I mentioned at the start, that your Copilot for Microsoft 365 experience is exactly the same. It's an add-on to your base license, but the product is the same. So if you have business standard and you're paying what's probably £11 a month for your business standard, something like that, you're buying your £30 or £25 Copilot license on top, that Copilot will be exactly the same as the M365 E5 plan, which is £50 a month, because Copilot is the same. So I thought this was quite good to include, because Copilot is essentially governed, or it's limited by, the base product you've got. So as you can see on the screen, if you've got that business standard, you've got Copilot set up. Business standard includes multi-factor authentication, with around your security parameters, and that allows you to configure Office-based sensitivity labels. That's quite important, as we'll go through as we move across the stack and move to Business Premium or E3 or even E5. We're gaining more and more, should we say, security features within the SKU. That's very important, because if you turn Copilot on, you don't have a conditional access policy, and don't get me wrong, it could be included with Microsoft, or you could have other third-party security tools. As long as it works with Microsoft, that'll be fine. But if you're turning it on for business standard, the first thing our user is going to do is they're going to go to Copilot. Either go to Copilot Chat, and you can ask it questions, or Copilot Search. You can ask it to search for files. It's incredibly powerful. It can find files that you as a user are struggling to find. It may all be sat in SharePoint. If you don't have the right sensitivity label set up, or you don't have the correct permissions in place, someone may, let's give the example of a salesperson, because on these forums we always use salespeople, and they always seem to get that negative connotation. But the salesperson's gone in there and they've typed in something like, find my pipeline report, or find my financial report for this year. So if they've searched something as Nathan's pipeline to 2025 or whatever, it will bring that up, because that's what we've asked it to do. But if we've been a bit vague with the request, which is another thing, there's an adoption and change management piece on helping users actually use an interactive Copilot. But if we put something like, show me my financials for the year, for example, if the security is not set up correctly, if you don't have some sensitivity levels in place, and you don't have much further across user and session risk controls, it could bring up, I could see the company's data, for example. So if I've said, show me financials for the year, I may well see something that the directors have put together, which is a profit and loss report or something like that, because Copilot doesn't know what I can and can't see, and I've asked it, show me financials. So the base license that you've got is incredibly important, but also ensuring that you're leveraging what you've got within that base license. If everyone can remember back a few years ago, when Business Premium, or when Microsoft M365 E3, for example, were fairly new products, Microsoft were pushing this whole do more with less methodology. You've got all these capabilities within your license, but you're not using them. You may have these capabilities in your license now, but Copilot will bring that to should we say to the fore, because you might not have sensitivity labels set up. For example, if you don't have that set up and you unleash this incredibly powerful tool that can search, it'll search and it'll find them. Another thing as well, Copilot in PowerPoint, for example, you can reference documents. So you can go to the Copilot sidebar. You can basically say to it, create a slide based on these documents. And you can basically, I'm looking for documents within the organization that include, we'll use financial again, because it's probably the easiest thing. But we say something that includes financial information. You can go in, it can look for those documents, and it may create a PowerPoint, and it's really good. I've done this with some other decks, and it's actually quite powerful. It can do a 20-page presentation in a couple of minutes. It's not done this one. This is our own work, but I've put it out there. But it can go away and it can create that slide. if the user or if the company doesn't have the correct security permissions in place, if we're using financials, it's that again going to produce something that the account manager in this example probably shouldn't see. But it goes for all departments. You may not want HR seeing finances, you may not want finances in HR, etc. So the security controls that you have within whatever SKU, whatever Microsoft product you've got, we need to make sure that we're using them, because Copilot will leverage everything that you've got set up, and it can lead to some questionable results, shall we say. We'll cover quantum at the end, and we'll cover going through what you have in your license. But yes, it's definitely worth looking into. If you've got one of these M plans, or you've got business premium, you may well not know you have conditional access, because it is a standalone plan for other add-ons. So that's worth looking into and leveraging that instead of going out and paying for a third-party tool, for example. Just a couple of stats on Copilot, and it's worth knowing that you probably have to look at Copilot this way. If we take again, which was a business standard or business premium, you're paying between £11 and £15 a month for that base license. You're then being asked to pay £25 a month for an add-on. So the add-on is significantly more expensive than your actual base license. It's probably a bit of an easier pill to swallow for the enterprise customers that are paying £30 to £50 a month for that license, the base license. But still, it's still going to be an increase if you push that out, across all of your user base. For example, you could end up being in a position when your Microsoft licensing is costing £100 a user a month, plus any dynamics that you may have on top of it as well. Your productivity suite alone could be £80 a month per user. So we have to, it's all well good me saying this, we have to look at Copilot almost maybe not quite in the financial side of things. It is going to cost you more, which is where optimization of your current usage comes into play. Again, something we'll cover in a second. You almost have to look at it in it's costing me more, but what is it actually saving, or what is it doing? So from the early access program, Microsoft have gone and surveyed everyone in it, surveyed ourselves, and we're producing a similar survey for our early access customers. 70% of everyone that responded is basically saying that Copilot has made them more productive, and just under 70% of people are saying that Copilot has improved their quality of work. That is how we're going to have to display a return on investment. Are we making, we're paying that license, but that user's producing slightly more effective work? We've got to somehow attribute a cost to that, because that's how we're going to justify paying the extra £25 a month for Copilot, Microsoft 365. Again, this is something, instead of using it as a percentage, we're sort of flipping it instead. This may be an easier way to look at what your justification is. If we look at it and say, for example, that this one, so these few customers that were surveyed saved 2.5 hours. Not the biggest number in the world, 2.5 hours. If we can take that 2.5 hours, as you can see in the workings that Microsoft have put at the bottom, they've extrapolated it to be X amount of time per month. The average salary in dollars works out at this much of a financial saving. Understand that it's American, it's done in dollars, it's done on surveying people in very particular sectors, hence why we're looking to bring our own out as well. But when it comes to breaking even, you've basically got that we're doing £25 a month per user, reverse engineer £25 a month. What does that work out in an hourly rate? How much have we actually saved in terms of hours? Extrapolate that back. It's probably a fairly easy way to actually break even. According to this, Microsoft is suggesting that we're looking at 54 minutes to break even, based on obviously a 70k employee cost per year. So we'll have to work out a UK version. We're also looking to do it in terms of different sectors and stuff like that, because we're seeing knowledge workers, for example, or people in marketing, for example, are seeing a high return on investment because they can generate copy much quicker. Yes, of course, that copy does need to be sense checked, but it can produce a 7-page PDF, for example, 7-page PowerPoint in minutes as a sort of basis. So it will require a different return on investment that Office 365 will require, but we have the stats out, and this is what we're seeing as our early adopters. I do want to suggest something different now. So moving on to quantum. We understand that that's all well and good, and Microsoft can produce, those amazing stats, and they can do, reports of Gartner and Forrester, on the whole future of AI and the whole reverse engineering of it saved this many hours will work for some companies. What we think is a better way to look at it, we would say this, but leveraging our tool Quantum or leveraging, optimization in general. What I would suggest for this is you have the M365 E3 plan, and you've got that across several hundred users. Do you know what you're actually using within that plan? With a tool like Quantum, what we can do is we can hook it up, we can do a health check. We can basically see what the customers are using. We can break the license down into individual components, and we can basically suggest recommendations. A few years ago, you may have decided to jump to M365 E3 because it seemed that that's what everyone else was doing, or you were given a good offer, or it made sense because you wanted to leverage conditional access. That's great. But for example, you might have users, the frontline workers, for example, that are basically logging in for a couple of hours on a shared device. They don't need to have that full M365 E3 plan. We probably don't know that because we don't actually have an effective way of managing that. What we can do is we can hook it up to a tool called Quantum. You can see the screenshot there. We can pull through actual users. We can see in terms of the plan they've got, we can see what they're actually leveraging, and we can then make recommendations. For example, we could turn around and say these frontline workers are on E3, and they're on E3 because that's what you did across the company. If we can move those 50 users from E3, you'd have to move them, if you wanted them to have Copilot, you'd have to move them down to Business Premium or Business Standard. If you didn't want those users to have Copilot, you could move them to one of the F plans, for example. The saving utilising that, if we can get them from E3, or even you get them a Business Premium onto one of the F plans, the saving that you're going to see, you can then leverage to then buy Copilot licenses on the users that require it. So it's about being smart of what you're paying, taking advantage of the current investment that you've got, using that better, and then freeing up some budget to then buy the Copilot licenses. Because in an ideal world, you'll go back to the CTO, the director, the business owner, and say, I want to buy this license, and they'll just say yes. Doesn't happen though, does it, in the ideal world? Or they'll say yes for one license for them. That may not be the best use case. So if you can leverage tools, like Quantum, leverage ourselves, leverage everyone on the calls, we basically work with you to ensure that you're actually using what you've got. Another thing to call out, we've obviously discussed M365, the Copilot productivity suite. There are other Copilots available. I'm sure this is going to get touched on right at the end, but if you have the correct dynamic SKU, for example, you're going to see versions of Copilot sat within that. So therefore, you may not need to pay for Copilot for those users because you've got an element of Copilot for sales sat in there. For the health check, we'll cover that. We'll cover everything that the licenses have got. As you can see on the screen, it's license and agreement agnostic. However you're procuring these licenses, we can get you set up and can see them. We can also do the same for Azure as well. It may well be that you've got the correct requirements for your business, for your Microsoft plans, but you've got an Azure investment. We can take a look at that, see if we can save you some money on Azure, which then frees up some budget to then go and leverage to go and buy some Copilot licenses as well. Other things to call out from a security point of view for Quantum is very quickly, we can see what security policies are in place, which is going to help you with your rollout of Copilot. We can see what user permissions have got. We can see who are global admins, etc. There's dashboards within that can show you who you've got, what your risky users are, and who's got the correct security permissions and who hasn't, as well as a full sort of join us, movers and leavers process. So I hope you'll appreciate that whistle-stop tour of the busiest and the probably most sort of newsworthy Microsoft product that's come out the last couple of months. We're going to throw it across to everybody now. If anyone's got any questions, obviously we'll be here for that, and we've got a few more things to discuss as well.
Thanks, Nathan. That was really useful, and I think it's interesting thinking about there's lots of co-pilots. The productivity one that you've talked about there in terms of Office, and you can see why people are a little bit confused. It's about whether you've got an M3 or an M5 and you've got this and you've got that. One of the big takeaways for me though was where you touched on about the security element of things like the Copilot. So it's not just putting in Copilot, it's thinking about that foundational offering and license that you have because of some of the security features. So I thought that was a really good sort of, I suppose, thing I hadn't thought about in terms of Copilot's amazing, but just help me license it. But just throwing it open to anybody that's on the call. There isn't too much in the chat, but has anybody got any questions around sort of licensing, or that they want to ask the experts that we've got on the call?
One question would be really great to know, guys. Has anyone got Copilot yet?
Has anybody on the call got Copilot or using it?
Nope, not me.
No, and that's probably why you've joined the call, I guess, to understand a little bit more around the licensing. What Dave said, you've seen it demonstrated, it looks good. Again, I think it's like everything, there's some great technology. Copilot is sort of in everything really now that's coming out of Microsoft, and I think one of the key things is understanding kind of what's included and what's not. Prime example, there are a number of our customers that have got Dynamics customer service, so they've got CRM, so they've got enterprise licenses across all of their customer services. What they didn't know is that there are elements of Copilot that are already included in their licenses that their users can have enabled now and they can start using. So I think that is a massive positive. So Microsoft are investing, but they are making some of these investments already included in your license premium you'll pay. So the same for sales and the same for service, which is great. Understanding what the parameters are about what's included in your current license is why I'm leaning on my friends at Bytes, and that's where they can absolutely help you, is understand, because alongside that there are lots of other add-on Copilots. So Copilot for sales, which is slightly different to the Copilot elements that if you've got a Dynamics license that you get. And that's the bit where this kind of some of this sort of confusion has come about. There's a question in around, do we think Microsoft will reduce the cost at any point? I suppose I'll hand over to Millie. Nathan,
Yeah.
any ideas, any wisdom?
So
should we hold off?
Well, what's interesting is, you know, Nathan mentioned right at the beginning when Copilot was put onto general availability for EA, there was a minimum seat requirement, and obviously some people were very hot on that and they got Copilot straight away. What's really interesting is that they would have paid for the minimum 300 seats. Out of those 300 seats, it didn't necessarily mean that they were in a position to deploy those licenses. So when we touch on what do we need to be Copilot ready, we talk about zero trust, we talk about security endpoints, and then we talk about document management, classification, etc. And again, a lot of that will be dependent on your base SKU because Copilot is the add-on. Now, one way we can help you is, as we know, the rules have changed. You are now able to have one license of Copilot. And as Nathan was really quick to stress the point there, you can take advantage of coterminosity. So again, using the quantum tool, we are able to have a look at your licensing estate and see what aspects or elements that you've got from a security perspective that you might not have deployed yet because you might not know they were in your E3 or in your business premium SKU. So when it comes to pricing, I don't think they're going to be reducing the price at all. There is huge demand for this product. And I think someone has put in the chat that they're not quite sure what questions to ask because they don't use it. Nathan and I are very lucky. We are Copilot users. And what has come out of the early adoption information that we're seeing is that once you've got Copilot and you go through the user adoption and you understand how it works, the productivity is quite mind-blowing, and you do very quickly get reliant on Copilot. And we have seen people in those early adopters that have, bearing in mind, they will have been using Copilot for what, the last 6 to 9 months, Nathan? And they have now moved roles, maybe joined a different company, and have been used to using Copilot, have joined the new company, and they don't have a Copilot license because that company is not part of the early adoption program. And they've just gone, whoa, holy moly, I've got to go backwards in some terms. And they have seen, you know, a reduction in productivity. Just to give you an idea as a user, when you're using Copilot and you're saying a very simple prompt as, what's the latest from could be from Nathan, but can you tell me what's the latest from Nathan, not just in my emails, but also across my Teams chats, my Teams channels, and also any documents that have been shared. And you can see straight away, you can do that today, but I'd have to go into Teams, I'd have to check on Nathan in that chat, then I'd have to go into my Outlook, check on that, and then I'd have to go into my SharePoint. So what it's doing is saving that time with that kind of data gathering for you. And that's why the security is quite important, because again, depending on the base SKU you've got, how you've set that up internally will depend on when I'm asking what files have come, whether or not you've got the right access policies to see those. Everyone. Oh, yeah, go on.
No, I was just going to say no, absolutely, and thank you for that response. It kind of links a little bit to what Dave, you've mentioned there around data. Absolutely, for Copilot and for any of the AI tools to work to their maximum efficiency and accuracy, it is around data. And it is about understanding where your data sits, how you're categorizing your data, documents secure. You've mentioned there around documents, the security of documents, who has permissions. It isn't as easy as just switching it on. There is a lot of background work, licensing costs, and also looking at all of your data. But that being said, it's not about switch on for everything. It's around taking a bit of an iterative approach and looking at the areas of the business where maybe it might work best first, looking at some key examples around using maybe the Copilot for an Office 365 for team productivity, and some of those examples where you've got those safer environments where you've got teams set up or you've got internal. So there is a lot to do, and data is clearly at the core. So I think you are right, Dave. There is a lot of preparation and Copilot ready, but what we shouldn't do is be seeing that as a barrier. It's definitely an opportunity. I'm conscious that we're close to time. We've got a couple of minutes because we said we'd finish at 9:15. I know it's over lunchtime for people, but I just wanted to end on a bit of a kind of it's a segue from what we've just talked about there. Really, is around what Bytes have talked to you about in their quantum, and just kind of summarising from a non-Bytes person, but a fantastic opportunity to be able to have a really good look at across your organisations where you can get better value from the licenses that you've already got. The other side of that, from a Crimson perspective, it's a new year. A lot of the solutions and applications, if we take things like Dynamics, for example, customer service for sales, organisations have had these in place for quite a bit of time now, and they've been maybe updating them and they've been working with them, but they have been in play for quite a while. It's a really good opportunity, like you would with your car, where you give it an MOT, is to take advantage of something like a health check. because before you start enabling lots of the new functionality, it's worth just having a little bit of a check of what you've actually got already in your applications, and are there any areas that maybe need to be looked at before you go ahead and start looking at some of the new technology. Sonia, just picking up on the sales Copilot, is that included in the CRM license? And again, there is, if you have a well, Millie's kindly put she can share the matrix for you. And I think the note on that is, if you've got enterprise service or sales, there is an element of Copilot that will be included with your licenses already. But there is also a sales Copilot, which is an add-on to that. And it's really important to understand what's in and what's not. So hopefully, as we come to a close, if we just move on, I know Holly in the background is going to do a really quick poll with everybody just to get a view on what your thoughts have been about today's webinar. But just in terms of the takeaways from today is, we'll leave the contact details of the team at Bytes and also myself around the things that we've discussed today. There is some great technology coming out of Microsoft and great investment. And I think for me, it's about take the opportunity to understand what you've already got, what licenses you've got, and where you can maybe get some more value from those. Look to where there might be inefficiencies and where you can maybe redirect some of that cost. And to also look at your business applications now with some of this new technology and how you can start to really start bringing it to life. So hopefully that's been really useful. Thank you for everybody's time. We are absolutely at past, and appreciate it is over lunchtime, so people may be looking to go and get something to eat. But thanks for the time. It will be recorded and we'll share it on all of the channels. If we just pop to the last slide for me, Nathan, which has just got some QR codes there. If anybody wants to contact us, all the contact information is there. So thanks again. I will let you all go and have some lunch, and hopefully if you need anything, give me a shout.